don't think I could ever forget the first time I flew, operated an aircraft, I should say. It's not something I don't think I'll ever forget. It's such an experience, such a rewarding experience. And in aviation, it's a very, very big deal when one goes solo for the first time. It's called their first solo, to be exact. And it's marked by a lovely dump of water, nice chilled water on the head of you once you accomplish it. So it's just another way for the students to remember. And it was such a feeling to be able to control the aircraft all by oneself for the first time. It's not something you have ever experienced up until the point where you do it. And just the responsibility and the privilege of doing that is not something I could ever let down. That being said, it wasn't the calmest I've ever felt, I can tell you that much. And there were some nerves at play, but some nerves are good nerves. And at the end of the day, it was a great flight, and yeah, it's a great memory. Well, my name's PEAKE. I am a born and raised West Coaster. I was raised just outside of Vancouver in a small town called Delta. And I'm only here right now to finish up some flight training from my previous 4 years of university. So it's been a long 4 years, but I'm back now. I'm just finishing up, and I'm a fully trained commercial pilot. Just looking to get my foot in the door. Memorable childhood experience growing up. Well, there's always one that pops in my head. It was of me and my sister. I was always an adventurous child, to put it nicely, and she was always a very nosy one. So those two were not always a good mix. But one time I found myself with a hammer and practicing to be a big-time construction worker. And she found herself sticking her nose over my shoulder as I was swinging the hammer back. So needless to say, it didn't end well for my sister, and she ended up going to the hospital for a couple stitches. But I think that story pretty much sums up our relationship pretty well, and it continues to kind of represent how we are to this day. I think my passion for aviation stemmed from that adventurous child in me. I would always see pilots and planes growing up around the airports, around the Lower Mainland where I was born and raised, and it was always a huge interest to me. I was always so fascinated by what they were doing, and just the thought of what they were, or where they were going, and the places they were exploring, and the awesome machines they were flying on. It was always just something that drew me, and it continues to draw me to this day. Even when I'm doing it, it's something I've never grown tired of, and I don't think I will ever grow tired of it. It's just such an adventure. Life in aviation school is very much catch up or keep up, as sad as it is to say. It is not something that's terribly easy, and if one doesn't possess the drive or determination to see it through, it is often very difficult to get it done. That being said, one of the hardest things for me dealing with in flight training was the constant struggle of outside factors influencing what I could get done. That could be anything from the weather not cooperating, or planes that were requiring maintenance, and just so many canceled flights. That being said, I probably have more canceled flights in my schedule than I actually have completed flights at this point. So, but at the end of the day, it was just such a rewarding experience, and if you can possess yourself to push through it and strive, then it is something you'll never forget. My most memorable flying experience, well, I'd have to say that one happened just a few weeks ago, actually. I was finally able to take my parents for a flight after so long, and that was done back home in Vancouver. So after 4 years of training and university, I finally got to take them up, and it was just an amazing feeling to see their faces with showing them my office and everything I do and all that. And I think that memory will stick with me for a long time. It's not something that I'll ever forget, and it's probably going to be one of my favorite memories of flying for forever, hands down. So far, I'd have to say the hardest decision in my career has been deciding which flight school to originally put my money and time with. Flight training is not a cheap or short process, so it is a very, very difficult decision to make when you want to decide which school to go with. And I think that must have been the most difficult for me. But also, the most rewarding, because I believe I chose a really good one. And I'm happy with the choice that I made. And I'm happy with where it's brought me to this day. And I wouldn't be who I am without flight school. So I'm looking forward to many more difficult decisions to come, as they're always the most rewarding. The only way I could really ever describe flying would be with one word, and that would be freedom. Nothing ever gets close to the feeling, at least for me, that flying provides. It brings out the best feelings in me, and nothing ever really comes close for me personally. It's such a combination of skill and knowledge, as well as safety and understanding of all the concepts around you. And you can't do anything without the weather cooperating as well, so it really brings everything full circle. And at the end of the day, it's just so rewarding. And nothing else in my life challenges me more and teaches me more than flying does. So for that, I'm very lucky. The responsibility of flying is something you can't forget either. It's one thing to keep yourself safe while flying, but the passengers who are counting on you to bring them home safe, and everyone on the ground who is just living out their day-to-day life, who wouldn't really enjoy a plane coming in to ruin that. There's just a lot of responsibility involved, and it's something not to take lightly, something I don't take lightly. And to me, it's just another part of the challenge, but also the reward that flying brings. I suppose my greatest inspiration would come from Chris Hadfield. Ever since I was young, I would keep up with his stories and all of his journeys across the world, and to space, of course. How could you forget that? He is just such an inspiration to me, and I hope one day that I can even come close to accomplishing as much as he has accomplished in his life. Maybe not the astronaut part. I don't know how I'm feeling about that yet, but maybe we'll get close, who knows. The most difficult and the most fun part about training, I'd have to say the two went hand in hand at times. The most difficult for me personally was the many early mornings I spent having to wake myself up at 1 a.m. to go for a flight at the airport at 3 a.m. and to find myself flying when it was still pitch black outside. It's not something I'll ever forget. It was quite the struggle, but at the other end of the stick, waking up for those flights and being one of the few people awake at that time is the beauty that was there. It's just unmistakable. And to be the only one around flying up in the middle of the night, being around for the sunrise, it was just gorgeous. And I find that would probably be the best part of my training, would be exploring all those little maritime airports in the dead of night and in the cold winter mornings. In 5 years, I hope to see myself helping as many people as I possibly can. I've always been very passionate about helping others when they need the help and when they are at a difficulty for helping themselves. And there's a unique way of helping people in aviation, whether that be firefighting or search and rescue, or really just flying supplies in and out of rural villages up north. It's any of the above would be truly amazing for me to get my hands into, because it's just something I've always wanted the pleasure of doing and the chance to help others. So that's where I hope to see myself in 5 years. I'm passionate about so many other things besides aviation. I'd have to say aviation is my biggest passion, hands down. Otherwise I wouldn't be here wearing this lovely uniform. But my first passion, I'd have to say, would be sports. I've always been a very competitive player, and ever since I could walk, I was playing hockey and lacrosse, and almost every other sport I've dabbled into. So I've always loved sports, and aside from that and aviation, I've also been very much into photography and hunting or fishing, or really just being in nature for anything. It's not something I could ever grow tired of, and especially being from BC, where there's just so much of it and so much beauty. I find myself exploring more than I could ever complete in one lifetime. Something very few people know about me. I'd have to say that would be when my decision for flight school was happening. I was also very close to deciding to go to vet college. I was very much on the fence of the two. So not too many people know know that about me, that I almost went to vet college, because my passion for animals and my passion for their care has always been very prevalent, and it was always something I was very interested in doing. But at the end of the day, I think my adventurous spirit won out, and that has brought me to where I am today. And for that, I'm very thankful. I'm very happy to be where I am today. But perhaps in another life, would have been a vet. Who knows? This one, this is a difficult one for me. Being a pilot myself, it's hard for me to know what people perceive about the profession, or what they know or don't know about the profession. But something that I find always surprises people when I bring it up with them is the percentage of female pilots that are actually worldwide. And that number is 6%, roughly 6% of all pilots worldwide are female. And to me and to most people, that's a crazy number. But because of all the initiatives and the groups out there now, everyone's hoping that number will increase, and so am I. It's a very demanding profession, but it's one anyone can do if they apply themselves and they have the right skill set. So I'd love to see that number increase. But as for the lifestyle, that is a topic in itself. That's one I could dive deep into. The most I could say about that is that it's not an easy lifestyle, and it's one that takes a lot of getting used to, because of the many days spent training, many days not spent at home, late nights. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's also very rewarding. So it's not one I am keen to give up soon. The pandemic had far-reaching effects on the aviation industry. That included everyone from the flight students all the way up to the captains of Air Canada or WestJet. It was and still continues to be a very difficult time for aviation, but it's also slowly coming back. And if the past has ever taught us anything, it's that aviation is a very fluctuating career. It has its rough times, but also has its very good times. And for me personally, the pandemic had not the best effect on me, as I was just finishing up my 4th year of university and my flight training at the same time. But due to the pandemic, my university closed and the flight school closed temporarily. So I had to make the tough decision to drive back across Canada to Vancouver and to wait out the worst of it. So just in the past few weeks here, I decided now was the time to come back and to finish off what I left behind. So it wasn't the easiest decision for me, but it was one that had to be made, and I'm glad that I made it. And it's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about the industry and what can happen. But it's something I'm proud of, and it's something that I'm still working hard to complete. And the pandemic won't slow anything down anytime soon. My message would be absolutely do it. Follow through on it. It may not be the best time in the industry right now for getting into, but by the time you've completed it and by the time you're out, things will have picked up and things will be looking better again. So if you're interested in being a pilot, being a flight attendant, or being really anything in the industry, if it's your dream, if it's your passion, follow through on it. Do all that you can to complete it. That's all I can say. At the end of the day, I am so happy that I chose to go this route. It is so rewarding, and I find myself every day learning something new and going home with a new experience or a new skill that I never would have imagined I would have gained the day before. So it's honestly a very rewarding profession, and one I'm very proud to be a part of. Not to mention the office views are second to none, so you can't beat it. Well, I can honestly say that I've never had the opportunity yet to introduce myself on flights for any passengers. That is to say, I haven't introduced myself on any flights so far during training, but I'm not sure those ones are up to par yet. So I think I'll keep practicing, but I imagine in the future, when I do eventually get the chance, I'll probably be too focused on making sure I don't embarrass myself too much than what I'm actually trying to say. So if you ever hear Pilot Peak on any of your flights, you better watch out. Currently, you can follow me in my interesting adventures on Instagram at pilot.peak. It's definitely a unique Instagram, I can tell you that much, but if you follow me now, in the next couple of weeks here, there's going to be some interesting things happening when I go home. Got some big plans coming, so you don't want to miss out.